February 8th, 2023, 9:30 a.m. We'll call the meeting of East River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors meeting in order. And this time, I'd like to ask if y'all check your phone, make sure that it's on silence or airplane mode or whatever so they don't interrupt the meeting. And we have all four of our commissioners with us today, all of our attorneys. At this time, if y'all would rise for the invocation followed by the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning, Lord. We thank you for a beautiful day, Lord. The weather is nice, and we just appreciate all that you do for us, Lord. Lord, we ask that you give this board the wisdom and knowledge to handle the business of this authority and handling this precious resource, Lord, that you give us, that we can just do the right thing always and everything that we do for the people that we serve. Lord, we thank you for our men and women in service and our military, law enforcement, all of our first responders, Lord. We just lift them up to you. Pray that you keep your hand of protection upon them at all times as they do their best to protect us and keep us safe from harm's way. Lord, we thank you for everything you do. Ask all these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank everybody for coming this morning, and I'm going to turn it over now to Mr. Coates.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. Welcome to the East River facility. We appreciate the opportunity to have everybody here today. And it looks like you did that with everybody. Meeting your water needs now and the future is our number one priority. And the good collaborative relationship that we have with our members and customers really helps that out. You might notice some changes outside the facility. We're still in hurricane recovery mode here, Hurricane Ian. And you'll hear about some of those efforts from Chris Rogers later in the meeting. But thanks to years of planning and work to improve the hurricane hardening facilities and the dedication of the authority staff, we kept this plant running to a direct hit of Hurricane Ian. These facilities delivered water continuously through Hurricane Ian and after the storm. At times, the delivery rates out here approached 50 million gallons a day due to loss of customers, facilities, and also due to line breaks out of the system. We ran on generator power for nearly a week here because partial power was out. As we look to expand these facilities, I think our customers can look to us to continue to provide that level of service in the future. The level that we've supported in the past should continue. And you can see some of the components of that expansion here today. You saw a big piece of pipe on the front. That pipe is from the Phase 3C pipeline. That would go in with the Phase 3C pipeline. It's 42-inch diameter, spiral welded American cast for American steel pipe. So you can sign that at your leisure. There are major markers out there. So it'll be a time capsule, so to speak, in the future. If you look out the back door, you'll see some equipment that we're using to pilot test technologies that are going to be considered here for expansion of treatment facilities at this location. So you're welcome to look at those. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to host the board meeting, and welcome home.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, at this time we have our award recognitions. Number one is our Employee Service Recognition Award.
Mr. Chair, board members, Richard Anderson and your staff. As you mentioned, we're going to hand out some service awards today.
And headaches.
And one of these we have 4 service awards for 5-year, and then we have a 10-year, 15, and a 20-year. So I'm going to go through the 5-year service awards first. And if you don't mind, we'd love it if you would mind coming down up front so we can get a quick picture with each recipient. That would be great.
Let's do that like now.
Yes, sir. The first service award is Mr. Scott Cunningham. Scott's our construction manager. Scott, if you come on up. Scott's been with the authority, like I said, 5 years. He brings over 31 years of experience in various construction roles to the authority. He is a valuable and trusted resource. Scott manages and interacts with all the consultants and contractors on our large capital projects. He's also taking steps to be certified as a construction manager, and he's taken the lead in developing our AutoCAD and our GIS standards for the authority, which we had none before he got here, and that drove him crazy because he didn't have them. More recently, he's begun spearheading also our records management project. So when Scott's not working, he enjoys time with his wife Patrice. He's got a lovely daughter Shay, who actually was an intern here for us last year, and likes doing woodworking and home improvement. So Scott, congrats on your 5 years.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. I'm hoping to free some chairs up by doing this first. So. Next up, we have Richard Floyd. Richard, if you come on up. Richard's a Class C operator working to achieve his Class B license. He's been here, like I said, 5 years. He's a youngster, 28 years old. He told me that because I said, I need some more stuff on you. And he said, I don't have any, I'm only 28. He's working from northern Indiana. He actually lives in Fort Myers and commutes up here right now, looking for a place to be a little bit closer. But right now he's got 2 cats. He likes. He doesn't like fishing. He's one of the few that don't have fishing on the list here. But video games, he likes to play music, and likes to cook. So, Richard, congratulations on your 5 years. Okay, great. Next up is L.V. Meredith. L.V. L.V.'s our lead electrician, or electrician 3. He has over 29 years of experience in the electrical field, mainly managing commercial industrial projects before he came to the authority. So he was on the dark side for a while. Sorry about that. L.V. does have a thorough knowledge of all electrical rules, regs, codes. He's our safety guru. He is probably the most safety conscious person at the authority, pointing out things on a weekly, if not daily basis, of things we should be doing around here, which we appreciate. Working hard to keep us safe. He's a DeSoto County resident, lives in Fort Ogden. He does like to hunt and fish, as most of us do. He and his wife Nikki have 5 kids, and I didn't realize 6 grandkids. So keeping me busy on that. Congratulations. And last up on the 5 years, Daniel Roberts. There. Daniel's our environmental specialist 3. He came to us from the private sector. He was a field scientist with an environmental lab. He also has a BS degree in biology. As one of our environmental scientists, Daniel oversees the biological water quality programs for the river, for the reservoirs, and for the ASR well fields. He also manages the hydrobiological monitoring program, the Horse Creek Stewardship Program, and also sits on the Coastal Heartland National Estuary Program Board. So Daniel lives in Port Charlotte, and when he's not working, he enjoys spending time with his family, his girlfriend Lindsay and daughter TJ, and also likes to kayak and fish, and just enjoys the outdoors. So, Daniel, congrats on your father. right, we're going to move on to 10-year award. Patrick Pritchett. There he is. Patrick is an instrumentation and controls tech 2. He's been with us, like I said, 10 years. He has over 50 years of experience as an instrumentation tech. Coming from the private sector, also tobacco industry, he was a technician for, was it Philip Morris, I think it was?
No, R.J. Reynolds.
R.J. Reynolds, okay, so many years calibrated cigarette machines. So. He was previously also, he's a Navy veteran. Congratulations and thank you for your service. He was a reactor operator on a nuclear prototype, also an instructor in that field. So when he's not calibrating equipment for us here at the authority and keeping all of our analyzers accurate, he enjoys spending time with his 2 kids and 1 grandson. And he likes bicycling and gardening in his spare time. So congrats on your 10 years. And now 15 years, we have Mike Chell, our operations manager. There he is. And Mike gets a clock because he's always late to work. Now Mike is our operations manager. He's been here for 15 years. When I got here, he was the lead operator on the midnight shift. He stepped up to be operations supervisor, and now he's the operations manager. And Mike has, and I say this without any exaggeration, he has an expert understanding of this plant. He is the one that keeps this plant running. He has trained almost every staff member here, the ones that, there's only 2 I think that preceded you when you got here. So he does spend all his energy keeping this plant running, producing the best water that we can out of this facility. Mike mentioned Hurricane Ian. When the storm came, Mike boarded his house up. He lives in Northport. Left, came here with his sleeping bags and his wife. April of 40 years, and they are still married after spending a week in his office upstairs. She used to be the same thing. But Mike, just didn't worry about his house. He came here, he took care of business, and he wasn't the only one, but he led the charge to keep this plant running when we needed it most. So just want to recognize him for that. He does have 2 kids, 5 grandkids, and he has a very fast race car that he runs at the Bradenton Speedway whenever he can. So it's a GTO, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Mike, congrats on your 15 years. And last but not least, we have John Ramsey. John? John was one of the few that was employed by General Development when the authority took over the plant here. So we inherited John as part of the package. He's one of the original staff members of the authority. And although he briefly left for the dark side for about 4 years, we did hire him back, and he came back, and this stint he's done 20 years. I believe he said he did 5 previous years and then left and came back. So you've got over 25 years with the authority, but 20 years as a continuous span of service. John currently serves as our operations specialist. He's responsible for all the drinking water compliance, all the sampling, making sure we get everything sampled and processed to DEP for compliance purposes. He's also a proud veteran of the Air Force, so congratulations and thank you for your service on that. He was an aircraft maintenance specialist on fighter jets. He's married to his wife, Darlene. They have 3 parrots and a 6-month-old puppy named Brandy. John, too, stayed here the whole time when the storm hit. And he was a little bit of help, but his wife was a tremendous whenever we were working and doing things, she would show up with a tray of sandwiches or something, and food. And that goes a long way when you're working and not thinking about eating. So tell your wife again, thank you for everything she did, because she was in that kitchen cooking for us a lot. So thank you for that. And last but not least, John is retiring at the end of this year. So not only do we have 20 years, but He'll be retiring in December, I believe. So thank you for your 20 years of service and all your years of service in the industry. So, John? Get a picture.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Next, we have a recognition for the Government Finance Officers Association certificate and achievement of excellence. Mike.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the fourth year in a row, the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the authority. This is for the authority's fiscal 2021 report. The report has been judged to meet the high standards of the program. It includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. Ann Lee, our budget finance manager, and her staff generate this report every year. It's an important job to clearly communicate the authority's financials to our customers and public, and we certainly appreciate that. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. So congratulations to Ann and her staff, and to all of you for receiving this report, receiving this award for the fourth year in a row. Anyone stand up?
One person right at it.
Next up, Terry.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Terry Holcomb, and authority staff, good morning. Let's have a couple recognitions here this morning from the American Water Works Association. The American Water Works Association, or AWWA as we like to call it, is an international nonprofit scientific and educational association dedicated to improving drinking water for people around the world. It was established in 1881 and has over 57,000 individual members, utilities, or industry organizations, and is the largest organization of water supply professionals in the world. More specifically, the Florida section of the AWWA has almost 3,000 members and is the third largest section in the U.S. In fact, I'd like to actually poll the audience here. If you are a member of AWWA or you represent an organization that is a member of AWWA, can you just raise your hand? I think that this is a testament to the importance of this organization in our industry. Today, I have the honor of recognizing several individuals that received industry awards from the Florida Section AWWA at the fall conference that was held this past November in Orlando. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Andrew Greenbaum to please join me at the podium. So Andrew is a project manager in our operations department and has been a member of AWWA since 2004. Andrew currently serves as a trustee on the Florida Section Board. And at the fall conference, Andrew received the Florida Section Service Award for his service as the section's Operators and Maintenance Council Chair from 2016 all the way up through 2022. And we would like to recognize him this morning with the award that they received.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to Laureates. And any member of Kinley Horn. If there's anyone in the audience from Kinley. Ashley, did you come up and join the board? Oh, Doug? Thank you. Ford is the authority's project manager for the Phase 2B pipeline project. And this year, Ford became a life member of the AWWA organization. And that's an honor bestowed to people that have 30 years in membership with the organization. And each year at the fall conference, technical workshops and presentations are given on pertinent industry technologies, projects, and advancements in the industry. This year, as a co-author with Kinley Horn, the authority was recognized for the conference's Best Paper Award for their work and presentation on, follow me, using a GIS total model to quantitatively analyze large pipeline route alternatives. We would like to recognize the team for their accomplishment and the work done on the routing and feasibility study for the Phase 2B pipeline. And this is the Best Paper Award. Although not an authority employee, we would like to ask Katie Gilmore, Deputy Director of the Manasota County Utilities, to come up and be recognized. And this is a surprise, so she's being hired for. Katie is always volunteering to assist with Region 10 committees, always behind the scenes. She's never in the spotlight. She's very humble. She heads up the judging portion of our annual drinking water taste test, and over her career has chaired the Young Professionals Committee, headed up the planning committees, and volunteered at our annual CIP nights, volunteered or headed up our regional model water tower competitions, and volunteered on the region's charity committee. Katie has been a member of AWWA since 2005, and in November, Katie was recognized as the Region 10's Volunteer of the Year at the Fall Conference. Congratulations. And then finally, the Florida section of the American Water Works Association has hosted a barbecue competition at the annual fall conference for over the past 9 years. I'm going to ask if Donald and Sean and Tim would join me up here. The authority has participated in all 9 events and in fact is one of the top teams to compete each year. In the 9 years we have been competing, our team has made the podium 6 times and has been named the grand champion twice, once in 2018 and again last year at the fall conference in 2022. We wanted to recognize them for their accomplishments and the hard work that goes into the event. These guys take this very seriously. They stay up all night long. They prep and season all the meat, smoke it, and have even developed their own barbecue sauce. It's very highly requested at all the barbecues, and they've deemed it the possum sauce. And I understand that it's a trade secret, and none of us will be able to get the recipe. This year's event was won with their outstanding first place in ribs, as well as the first place in chicken, which we'll be serving for lunch today, directly after the board meeting, and we hope that everyone will stick around and join us for award-winning barbecue. Please recognize our very own pitmasters, Donald Morton, Tim Grinnell, and Sean Lewis. Needless to say, we all look forward every year to the fall conference.
seems to be one award left here, and just real quickly, I don't have anything written down, but this one has Terry Holcomb's name on it. Like Andrew Greenbaum, Terry received the section's service award for her work as the Public Affairs Council Chair. And she did that for 4 years straight. She came off as Public Affairs Council Chair this fall and is now on the executive committee of the board. She's the secretary for the board section, so wanted to make sure she got her due as well. So Terry, here's your and for good or bad,
Stop!
Terry's daughter also won a $2,500 AWWA scholarship. She's a student at UCF, or USF, I'm sorry. So one day we might have the next generation of Holcombs up here making presentations. All right.
Well, I forgot something a little earlier this morning, and with a well-placed sharp elbow between the third and fourth rib, my buddy went through that. I got it, and then with a note from our legal counsel, I skipped plumb over public comment, and I know I had one, and I would like now to open up public comment, and I have a card here from Ms. Laura Knowles. She wants to tell us something this morning. Get what you're doing.
Good morning, my name is Lauren Knowles, and I'm part of Boy Scout Troop 780 in Manasota. Thank you everyone that supports Boy Scouts for moving us back to 5 new activities and trip trips. Our last trip, we stayed in a cabin on Peace River and toured this water thing. I bought each of you a box of cookies because they are not safe for all my You fight over
Chairman gets picked first, right?
Then the vice chairman.
Yeah. All right. Any other public comment? I'm sorry, I looked over that this morning. All right. Hearing none, we have the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Motion by Mr. Truitt. Here a second. Okay. Got a second by Commissioner Moran. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Regular agenda item number 1, water supply conditions.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, Mr. Anderson, and authority staff. Okay, item 1, as you mentioned, is the water supply conditions report. This is for the water supply conditions at the plant through about the 19th of January, and then we're going to take a look at the customer demands for the month of December. As usual, we'll take a quick look at rainfall. You can see the spike here that went off the chart was Hurricane Ian. I think, as you've heard before, this is an average of 3 gauges in the river, one north, one middle, and one south at Joshua Creek. The average for the month was about 19 inches of rain because of Ian. Thankfully, the next month we didn't get a whole lot, looks like about ½ an inch. But since then, we've kind of been averaging about, hitting about the annual average for rainfall each month, with January ending at about 1.75 inches for the month. Flows in the river, as you can see again, the effects of Hurricane Ian, we averaged for the month over 12,000 cubic feet per second there for the whole month of September. That dropped down to about 2,500 in November, and then it's been tapering off in December and January. But as you'll see in a minute, we still have quite a bit of water in the river, and we're still actually harvesting water in February, which is kind of unusual. River withdrawals, again, as you can see, for the month of December, we averaged about 40 million gallons a day, and then January, excuse me, down to about 25 million gallons a day. And surface water storage, we've basically been full since before Ian, as you can see here. This is back in August. We were at the permitted level. Because of the storm, we stopped taking water off the river and relied on the reservoir to draw it down a little bit. But since then, we've had tons of water, like I said, in the river, and we've covered, and we're right at the permitted level right there of what we can store. So about 6.8 billion gallons in the surface water system. And aquifer storage and recovery. Going back to the beginning of the year, back in April, we had about 8.65 billion in the system. We actually used, before Ian came through, we used about 750 million gallons out of the system in the spring, and then we've slowly been recharging that back again this fall and winter. And right now we're at about 8.8 billion gallons in the system. And that translates to about 5.2 billion of actual usable storage. And we base that on about 60% of what we put in is what we can get back out. So that comes out to about 5.2 billion gallons. And when you look at all that totaled up, when you add up the 6 billion in surface water and the 8 billion of ASR, it gives us about 422 days or 14 months of storage at our average day flow of about 28, 29 million gallons a day. If we were to deliver our permitted allocations to all the customers, that still gives us 11 months of storage at the 34.7 amount. So sitting really good on water storage as we move into the rest of this dry season. Now we'll shift over to the production. This is again for the month of December. The authority system used 27.8 million gallons a day. Your customer facilities generated 52.2 million gallons a day for a total of about 80 million gallons a day for the month. 3.5 of that was delivered by Manatee County to the consecutive customers of Bradenton, Palmetto, and Longboat. So the amount the authority customers and members used was about 76.5 million gallons a day for December. Let me take a look at Charlotte County. Again, the bars and the graph up top is the month of December data. So for the month of December, Charlotte used 11.3 more or less of supply from the authority. Self-supplied 0.67 from their bird store facility for a total of almost 12 MGD for the month, which was 62% of their allocations and permitted capacity. Looking at the annual basis, as you can see, for the ending water year 22, which ended September 30th, 12.3 annual average. The 12-month running average, which actually in this case is the calendar year, goes to the end of December, is about the same for Charlotte, about 12.37. And DeSoto County used 0.67 from the authority, produced another 300,000 more or less from their facility at the correctional facility for almost 1 MGD total usage for the month. Again, for the year ending in September, you used just over 1 million gallons. You're just up a tick for the 12-month running average at 1.07. And Manatee County served their self-supply customers 37.25. They exported 4.6 to Sarasota, and again another 3.5 to their consecutives, for a total production at the facility of 45.4. And this graph I don't have, for some reason I didn't have the 2022 number in there, but if it were here, it would be 37.1. So pretty much the end of the year 22 and the 12-month running average are about the same for Manatee Cherokee County at 37.1. Sarasota County. Sarasota County used almost their full allocation in December, 14.9. They imported 4.5 MGD and generated 3.52 from their facilities at Carlton and Penascomas. Total usage was almost 23 million gallons a day, or 68% of your permitted capacity. For the year ending 22, you averaged 2201 for the year. You're up just, again, about 250,000 gallons or so. On the 12-month running average, you're 22.3. And finally, the city of Northport. Northport used about 1 million gallons in December from the authority, self-supplied 2.16, and they delivered about 70,000 gallons a day to the Sarasota County system. Total usage was 3.19. For the annual roll-up, they used 3.85 for the year in 2022, down a tick. On the 12-month running average, they were at 3.76. And when we look at the regional demand, as you can see, the 2022 number was almost 80 MGD, and we're still creeping up closer to that 80 number, as you can see on the 12-month rolling average. So the calendar year 22, we averaged almost 80 million gallons a day, which is more than we've ever produced. Looking at the December number for 20, I shouldn't say December 22, apologize for that. Average was 80 MGD. Again, that leaves 24.7 capacity available, and the utilization was about 76.5%. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
This is non-action items. Board have any questions? Thanks, sir. Thank you. Item number 6. Same.
Just like the mayor's become too bad.
I can't help it.
It's okay. Board, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and the staff, I'd like here today, along with our auditor, Tiffany Mangold from PRMRWSA, to discuss the FY22 annual comprehensive financial report and independent auditor's report. Do I have your copy? All right. For our agenda today, I'm going to review the financial statements and highlights presented within the ACFR. And I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Mangold, who will discuss and review the independent auditor's report, and finally, I'll be looking for your consideration. Before we get into the financial statements, I'd like to point out that these are being presented in draft form, pending changes related to the GASB 68, which is the net pension liability adjustment we have to do every year. These statements are being presented in summary form as found within the management discussion and analysis portion of the report. And the figures presented in red are those which may be affected by this adjustment. First off, the statement of net position. The statement of net position is prepared using the accrual method of accounting and reflects all the same information as that balance sheet. It assesses the government's assets and liability against its liabilities. For FY22, the authority's assets and deferred outflows of resources exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources by just under $134 million. A substantial portion of this, which is roughly 81%, reflects the net investment in capital assets. In other words, that's the investment in capital assets net of related tax. The statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in the net position reflects all the same information as an income and or profit and loss statement. Is also prepared using the accrual method of accounting. In terms of revenues, charges for sales and service increased by 2.85%. Operating grants and contributions increased by 13.37%. And capital grants and contributions, which include capital grants from SWIFT and PEP towards project area acquisition and PR3 preliminary engineering, as well as customer capital contributions towards the system-wide benefit projects, increased by $1.6 million. In terms of expenses, cost of sales and service increased by 0.19%, so we stayed rather flat this year. Decreases in expenses such as professional fees, bond issuance costs, interest expense were more than offset by increases to maintenance, utilities, water treatment, chemicals. As of September 30, 2022, the authority's net investment capital assets was just over $243 million. This investment includes land, easements, structures, furniture, equipment, and construction in progress. For 2022, capital additions were $9.56 million, depreciation expense of $12.37 million, leaving a net decrease in capital assets of $4.665 million. The authority's long-term outstanding debt as of September 30, 2022, totaled just under $121 million. These bonds and other borrowings are secured by net revenues pledged in the master water supply contract. The long-term debt decreased by $4.81 million during the year due to scheduled principal payments. Under the authority's budgetary process, rates are established to provide adequate coverage for current and planned future debt. This is demonstrated by the authority's debt coverage ratios, which is this table here for you, which are both indicators of the authority's financial strength. As indicated here, the authority consistently maintains coverage ratios over the 1.5 times required in the bond covenants. And then pass this over to Tiffany, who's going to go through the reports.
Good morning, I'm Tiffany Mangold, Audit Director with Purvis Gray. We're your external auditors for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022. I just want to say congratulations again on receiving that GFOA Certificate of Achievement. That's the highest level of achievement that you can receive, as Mr. Rose mentioned. And so it's a team that represents strong leadership across the board, the management and its teams, so congratulations. I'll start by going over the audit results. So we issued an unmodified opinion on your independent auditor's report. That's a clean opinion across the board. It means that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. We're asking again that you accept these in draft form. So you'll see a paragraph at the bottom of your independent auditor's report in your packet. That's just saying that these are restricted for specific users right now until we get that extra information. So you have some favorable audit conclusions here. So your independent auditor's report, again, unmodified opinion. We also look at your investments to make sure that they're in compliance with Florida statutes. And we found the authority to be fully in compliance with Florida Statute 218-415. We have 2 reports on internal controls this year. We identified no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So when we come out for preliminary testing, we look at your internal controls over your purchasing and payroll, utility billing and everything. And if we had found any of those control deficiencies, we would report them in this report. And again, no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in controls. And if something was still a finding, but we did not find it to rise to that level, we report it in your management letter, and you have no written findings there either. So we report across the board. There was a new standard implemented this year, GASB 87 on leases. The statement requires that all long-term, non-cancelable leases of the lessor, which you are the lessor in your case, so I will talk about the lessee, that you recognize a lease receivable and a deferred inflow of resources. The only lease that management found that was implemented this year that was impacted by the standard was your lease with KB for the rental of your admin building. So it did increase about $155,000, but it's again offset by the deferred inflows, so no net effect for you. There were no significant transactions or unusual transaction scenarios that were out of the ordinary this year. So as Ms. Lee stated, you had some large grant expenditures this year. You had about $1.8 million in FDP grants for your Peace River Regional Reservoir number 3. Because of that, because they exceeded $750,000, we have to do a separate audit called a single audit, just to check your compliance with grants. And we've issued 4 separate documents in your packet this year in regards to that. So the independent auditor's report on compliance for each major federal program and on internal control over compliance with that major federal program and the uniform guidance. The schedule of expenditures of federal awards, the notes to the schedule of expenditures, and your schedule of findings and question costs. We didn't find any findings or question costs to relate, and we've issued a clean opinion on that report as well. You should have a separate 3-page letter separate from your ACCR. This is for communication with those charged with governance, and this is just a technical letter designed for those in charge of overseeing the audit. So this is just communication we are required as auditors to communicate to you as the board members. There were no adjustments detected as a result of the audit process. That means if you ask for financial statements throughout the year, you can rely on those, but they're fairly stated. There were no past adjustments other than OPEB, which came about 5 years ago, that this liability has to be reported on your books if it's material to your financial statements. Yours is very, very immaterial. So that's, again, not recorded this year. And we do monitor that each year. Your financial statement disclosures are neutral and consistent each year, but this year we do have 2 new disclosures to just draw your attention to. We put together the leasing standards, so note 8 is going to be there, and note 9 is on Hurricane Ian, and just that you were able to operate fully during that time. And just that there's no known, the impact is not known at this time. We had no disagreements with management, which we would have to relay here too as well. And with that, I'd just like to thank Mr. Coates and Ms. Lee and their staff, and the clean audit, congratulations, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board members, do you have any questions? What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, move that we receive East River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority fiscal year 2022 annual comprehensive financial report, independent auditor's report as submitted, and approve its submittal in the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Program, pending the changes related to GASB 68.
Have a motion by Commissioner Truex, do I hear a second? Second. Okay, have a second by Commissioner Truex. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, lady. Commissioner, agenda item number 3, Mr. Chris.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Chris Rogers, Project Manager of the Authority. This morning I'll discuss the damages caused by Hurricane Ian to the authority facilities. Current efforts underway to improve recovery. Let's start by looking at the number of damages we experienced at each of the facilities. The water plant suffered extensive roofing damages as part of 41 total repairs. 43 were for water resources, including erosion to Reservoir 1 embankments and delamination concerns at Reservoir 2. The RV Griffin Reserve noted 19 items, which include damages to the ranch house and environmental backflow. There were numerous smaller scale damages to security fencing caused by fallen tree limbs, wind-driven damages causing door swell control panel, and surveillance cameras malfunctioning due to wind-driven rain. With 110 total events identified, reflecting a diverse mix of damage, this slide illustrates the incidents based on the type of damage incurred. We experienced structural damage at 26 locations. 29 items affected electrical systems and instrument controls. Roofs were inspected on 19 buildings. Floodwater caused erosion at 4 sites. Debris was removed from 5 locations, with store materials being damaged in 2 buildings, and the security fence took 25 direct hits. Unlike ordinary purchasing, hurricane repairs require additional steps in the procurement process. Outside agencies played important roles in pre-approvals before contractor purchase orders can be awarded. First, insurance adjusters will perform inspections to assess damages and determine eligibility for cost recovery for each claim. Stantec and UESI perform special inspections in Reservoir 2. Sutter Roofing Company conducted roof inspections on the buildings. The ranch house and RV Griffin Reserve required for repairs must be coordinated with SwiftMud as the owners of the property. Damages that are not insured or not reimbursable from insurance will be submitted for possible recovery from FEMA. And as well, discussions are underway with FEMA regarding available funding for hardening of buildings and critical infrastructure. The process. The damage has been identified and inspected. Now bids can be solicited. Before a PO can be issued, outside agencies must approve the contractor's quote for each given repair. After outside approval, the contractor must confirm that the bid is still valid before we issue a PO, and the contractor must confirm availability to get the repair underway. Once the work is done, an invoice is considered approved. This slide details our current level of progress. To date, 31 repairs have been completed, 17 by use of authority staff. Contractors have completed 14 repairs and currently have 23 additional underway. There are still 53 pending repairs, of which 12 is yet to be determined if they will be done in-house or through contractors. The cost. Although being struck over 4 months ago, total repair costs are not yet fully defined. Cost of pending repairs cannot be fully determined until qualified repair contractors are identified, approved, and available to proceed with scheduled work. Challenges were met in finding responsive contractors. For example, staff reached out to 10 vendors before securing one available to complete the fixing repairs. Incidents considered underway are those that have been pre-approved and have been issued a purchase order that established not to exceed it. Currently, just over $168,000 is encumbered in purchase orders for contracted repairs considered underway. Through January 31st, completed repair invoices total just over $326,000. That does not include the labor costs associated with authority in-house repairs. That's slide 20. I had a picture. Did it go?
Another picture.
Well, the picture's gone, so. It was showing the river pump station submerged underwater, the effect that 50 to 20 inches of rain had over the effect on the river level. So this concludes my slide presentation. Are there any questions before I turn things over to Andy?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. So take a minute with me on this. Let me catch up to you. So this, the ask of this board is to transfer it to general funds out of the reserve, right?
Yes, sir. Well, it's actually, from the disaster recovery reserve to the general fund to reimburse costs related to Hurricane Ian. Back in December, we came to the board and we were approved to transfer, at that time, $150,000 for the expenses we had up to date, with allowing the executive director the authorization to transfer up to $500,000.
Okay. So is there a plan of how we're going to replenish the reserve? Do you guys come with a thought of, are we going to have to go back to our boards and allocate funds to this? Is there a plan of how that's going to happen, over what time periods, how much?
Do we have a concrete plan at this time? No. However, we do have claims with StarTech, which is the holder of our property insurance, as well as FEMA. They are hopeful that all those reimbursements, especially through FEMA, are successful because we actually have a FEMA consultant helping us out with that. And I have been told that FEMA will help reimburse deductible as well. So best case scenario, we get reimbursement funds from FEMA and we can replenish that reserve fund. We actually have only had the disaster recovery reserve fund in place only for a few years. The first $500,000 that we put into that fund, we had actually gotten a windfall from Allen litigation that had been going on. That we actually got a check from the state of Florida from that for a little bit over $500,000, and we used that to initially seed the disaster recovery reserve, so there's no impact to the customers at that time. And then in the next budget year, we went ahead and put the additional $500,000 to get that up to the board policy, which is just a goal of having at least $1 million in there.
Got it. So I guess what I'm looking for is that I'm trying to look up around the turn. I'm assuming at another board meeting, you're going to come to this board and ask for an assessment for us to go back to replenish that reserve?
Potentially, but I believe that we could be able to handle this within our normal budget process.
that you would just take general funds to replace it? We would not have to go back for an assessment?
Well, we would handle it, I suspect we would handle it in the same way that we do our utility reserve fund contributions, which is it's a portion of the base rate calculation under the other rate-related expenditures.
Okay, I guess the only ask I have, and it's not pounding the desk or anything, is that it's going to go back to our other authorities that we sit on, and there's going to be an ask for us to do an assessment back to that reserve as much time as possible that would, allow for that. I guess the second part of that, so we're not sure yet what was excluded coverage within a self-insured retention, which is within a deductible.
I can give you
Just
some
simply
information.
choices of uninsured, but we're just, right now, it's just get the money out the door, see if it's covered later, and ask to put the money in the general fund.
Well, I filed an insurance claim within 2 days of the storm. We were already on the phone with Michelle Martin, who's our insurance agent with Brown and Brown.
So they haven't told you whether it's excluded or within your
Well, I
self-insured
haven't
retention?
been, well, we actually don't have a self-insured retention. We just have a deductible. We're not self-insured. We don't have excess premiums of $5 million, so as a government entity, we're not allowed by statute to self-insure.
Got it.
Everything should be covered under property insurance, with the exception of dirt, because property insurance doesn't cover dirt. So those are the items that we're really focused on putting through FEMA. So debris cleanup, the damages to reservoir one, because that's just an earthen embankment. Those type of things are what we're focusing on with FEMA, as well as when we give the deductible information.
Great. So if they come back to you and say, for example, it's excluded due to flood versus some other peril, you're then going to try and go to FEMA to try and get some reimbursement?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
At this time, we don't have any indications of that, and in fact, the adjusters, which are with Sedgwick, they were on our site looking at everything. I'd say about 2 weeks after the storm, they made it all the way down there and quite a crew, and we're actually meeting with FEMA here next week on the 15th to do a site review as well.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Chris? Pleasure to report.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to authorize the executive director to approve transfer of funds from the disaster recovery reserves appropriate to continue hurricane related repairs and authority facilities up to a total of $1 million.
Motion by Commissioner Pruitt, so here a second. Second. Second by Commissioner Pruitt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 4.
Just gonna hang out up here, sir.
Award winners and lead.
That award has more letters than my name, huh? And we have your staff, and I'm going to be reviewing the FY23 budget amendment. So for our agenda, I'm going to review why we need to amend the budget, potential budget updates, as well as when we will be coming back to seek your approval. Budget amendments are very common in government, and most municipalities annually amend their budget. Although we do our best to include everything in the budget, a budget is limited to the information you have at the time the budget is created. Now, this could be for direction, CIP plans, economic outlooks, or from specific rate notices from vendors such as FPL. As time progresses, priorities shift, and changes in external factors such as unanticipated events like Hurricane Ian or more direction on projects will lead us to amend the budget. So amending the budget will allow us to ensure that we're not overexpending any of our funds. If we have an overexpenditure of funds, it could lead to a modified depending on the audit, which none of us like. An amendment will also ensure that we have accurate revenues, sufficient to cover any of those project additions, and still be in compliance with debt ratios found in the bond covenants. Well, now as we've gone over why it's important that we do look at this, I want to discuss a couple of the potential updates to our budget. The largest anticipated update is related to the CIP expenditures, specifically the large capital projects, not the system-wide benefit projects. So in the FY23 budget, we have 3 large capital projects. PR3, the Phase 2B pipeline, and the Phase 3C pipeline. Back in December, we came to you, we discuss the cost increases related to the PR3, and then to have that plan B just in case to be able to meet future demands. And based on your direction, we went ahead and are endeavoring on the brackish groundwater RO facility, as well as the expansion pilot testing DCP for the expansion. So these changes are not expected to affect the customers, as the revenue side will be coming from the authority's line of credit with a $100 million line of credit. And interest costs and fees associated with that line usage, we'll true those up in the future based on who is coming to the party. We also anticipate bringing an early procurement package in April for the Phase 2B pipeline. This was not included in the budget at the time like it was for the Phase 3C pipeline. However, with long lead time of materials, we're going to take advantage of that to bring that back to you in April. The second area of a potential update is related to the additional cost burden from Hurricane Ian, which we just discussed. So as though we filed claims with insurance and FEMA, the amount of our deductible is potentially going to be more than the amounts that we had covered in the Disaster Recovery Reserve Fund, which were just over $1 million in that fund. Potential deductible could be $1.6 million, potentially, just based on how it's calculated. So we'll have to, like we just discussed, see how to cover that additional cost of the deductible and how it works better to get funds in that account again for the target of another hurricane, which is potentially will happen in the future. The last area that we may see an update to the budget is the variable O&M costs, which for us are power and chemicals. Last year we came to the board and we let you guys know that we had substantial cost increases from FPL, roughly a 27% rate increase for January of last year, as well as extremely high chemical costs went up about 80%. We have put all that information into the financial model maintained by Stantec, who is our rate consultant, and that model reflected that we needed to actually have a 21-cent per thousand gallon increase over the next 3 years to our metered rate, with roughly 18 cents of that occurring for FY23. Instead of doing a large rate increase, we elected to spread that out over 3 years to mitigate the effect for you guys. So now we come to January this year, and although we built a 5% increase in FPL's rate into the budget, they have come back and increased their rate 6.43%. And they have also notified us that they will be going to the commission, they're actually in those discussions right now, for a mid-year rate increase for storm recovery costs as well as fuel costs, which could be another 9 to 11% increase in our power costs. On the chemical side, right now we're currently bidding out the majority of our chemicals as those contractors decided not to renew based on current costs. Once we get all the cost information in, we will be putting that into Stantec's model to see what reflects in the metered rates so that we can look and see if we will be able to meet our bond covenants on the debt ratios as well as the board policy of 1.5 times on that debt coverage. So pursuant to statute 189.016, special districts may amend their budget anytime during the year or 60 days after the end of the fiscal year, and it's going to be a resolution. We're proposing to bring an amended budget back to you in April for discussion and consideration. So we have all that. Be happy to take any questions.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, again, I appreciate you. I'm going to play the new guy card here for a minute.
No worries.
So you have a $100 million line of credit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you used any of it?
Yes, we have done the initial draw to cover the closing costs. The $100 million line of credit, though, is specifically for large capital projects like the PR3 and the pipelines.
Well, that's where I was going next, is that, so under accounting principles, could you, for example, not have the disaster reserve, but wall off inside that $100 million line of credit for example, with a board policy that's not $100 million, it's $99 million, with 100 can only be used for disaster recovery. Are you allowed to do that?
Unfortunately, due to the legal documents involved with that $100 million tax credit, it was specifically only for large capital projects. I do not mind calling our lender and having that discussion to see if that would be a potential possibility. But at this time, it's not in the documents.
Well, I can tell by the way you're answering, you're understanding my questions, rather than just having the cash sitting there, you have it walled off in the line of credit, and you can't do it for anything other than reserve-type things that this board would do anyways. Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Any other questions?
Each year about this time, we will go through the authority's annual budgeting process. Talk to you about what we see for the next budget year, that would be budget year 2024, relative to what we have this fiscal 2023 budget. And of course, is to get some feedback from you on the items that we see that may change. So that's what we're doing for today. The budget calendar is shown here. With this presentation, kicking that off. We will have a draft budget that we'll provide to your staff for consideration by about the end of this month or very early in March. We have a professional staff meeting on March 8th. We'll go through the budget with professional staff, take their comments, make any changes that are appropriate, and then we will bring back the tentative budget to the board on April 5th. We'll present that, request approval of the tentative budget, one of the resolutions setting forth rates and fees for fiscal 2024, and then we'll have a public hearing on August 2nd before the final adoption of the budget. So that's the time frame. The authority is an enterprise fund. We collect money from the sale of water, we collect the money from grants, all of those things. We do not levy any taxes to get that revenue. The enterprise fund consists of two cost centers. One is the administrative cost center, and that is the facilities branch. And that includes executive staff, financial staff, those sort of things. That's what the money for the administrative goes to. And then the facilities, which is everything else. Facilities operation and maintenance, engineering and construction, project management. Facilities cost center is more than 95% of the budget. The administrative part of it is about 5%. So at the budget hearing in August, you'll be asked to adopt a resolution specifying rates and fees. Those rates and fees are going to need to ensure that we have continuity in our operations. We're able to run facilities, provide the water that you need. That we can continue the CIP projects that have been approved along the way. And that, as Ann indicated, that we maintain compliance with our bond covenants and your policies. So we will need to ensure that. Now, the resolution on the rates is the base rate. And there's a base rate charge that's levied to cover fixed costs. That's staffing, facilities maintenance, replacement, and debt service. And then there's a use rate charge. The use rate charge is based on how much water we deliver to you, and that's what Ann was talking about today. That's 89 cents a thousand. With the budget also a member fee, which is based on 50% of the population, and also 50% is split between each of the 4 member governments. There's not a huge fee, it's about $450,000 this year. There's a planning fee for future water supply projects. We have the update on the master plan, water supply master plan coming out in 2024, so we need to deal with that. Last year, we levelized that assessment. That assessment can go up and down each year. So we levelized it at $475,000. We don't expect that to change. We'll see that. And then, of course, there's an interconnect water charge for users who are not customers through the master water supply contract. And that is $3.30 this year for the pool water and $6.60 for non-pool water. We don't expect that to change. We don't expect to propose a change for 2024. The water rate, as I said, is comprised of 2 components. One is the base rate and the water use charge. And the base rate includes the fixed O&M costs, as I said, staffing, repairs, maintenance, and replacement. And then there's a debt service charge included in that base rate as well. So the fixed O&M charge is based on each customer's pro rata share of their allocation of this facility. For example, Charlotte County's got 16.1 million gallons a day allocated to this facility, all the total of 34.7 million gallons a day. So Charlotte County's base rate equates to 46%. They would pay 46% of the fixed costs of this facility. And it goes that way for each of the customers. On the debt service side, each customer pays their proportionate share of the authority's debt service. And each customer has participated differently in each of the authority projects. And so debt service costs are different for everyone. And then we kind of have, of course, the water use charge that reflects just the cost of power and chemicals to treat the water. And again, that this year, that cost is 89 cents per ounce. You can see down here the homogenized debt service components. That is just taking everybody's debt and rolling in the 34.7. Just to give you a scale, is about 92 cents per 1,000 gallons on the base rate. The fixed O&M components are about 32 in the fixed rate. So the total base rate in a homogenized sense is $2.24 a thousand. And then the water use charge is 89 cents a thousand based on what we deliver to each. So what are we looking at for fiscal 2024? Most expenses, like personnel costs, repair and maintenance, professional services are expected to increase above the rate of inflation. And that's what we've seen in the past 12 months is that inflation's run at about 6.5%. I don't know if it's going to be that way next year or not, but we'll get deeper into it in the next month or two and provide you. In the fiscal 2023 budget, we saw a large increase in chemical costs and just talked about those. And we elected to spread that out over the course of 3 years to minimize the rate of shock that caused each of them. So in 2023, we increased our use rate from 82 cents a thousand to 89 cents a thousand, 8.5% increase. And then we programmed in a rate increase in 2024 and 2025 that amounts to about another 8 cents a thousand each of those 2 years. We may have to adjust that based on what we see this year. We need to be able to cover all of the rate elements, the debt covenants we have, as well as each year goal of having coverage of 1.5 for our debt service coverage. So we may need to adjust that this year. We have 2 additional staff positions we're looking at. One for administration and finance to support project grant funding, and another of data management collaborative services. We are now at $4 million per year for we're now at $4 million a year for our fund. We are going to update our sufficiency study because costs have gone up so much. Our $4 million probably is not going to be adequate for continuing on. So we're going to update that study in advance of the draft budget, and just we'll bring that back to you. We will need to replenish the disaster recovery reserve. We hope we can get money from that. We will be getting money from the insurance company, or we'll have a deductibility. But we need to at least begin to finish it. Whether we do it all in 1 year or not, change that for a couple of years. Of course, the O&M budget is going to increase with inflation, particularly power chemical costs. And we expect to begin making payments on the $100 million credit, including there is a non-use fee. Until we get to a certain point of draw on that, we have to pay a certain amount of money for a non-use fee. It's not a huge amount of money, but we will have to deal with that. So, and we're going to have to adjust the debt service coverage payments as well. On the non-related expenditure side, historically, the planning assessment, as I said, has fluctuated pretty significantly. Last year, we levelized that at $425,000. We don't expect it to change. We will be doing the master plan update beginning 2024. We do a master plan update every 5 years to coincide with the SWIFT funds master plan update for 2025. So that will be in play. We've got a number of CIP projects that are in play right now. We'll have costs for the final design services for Reservoir 3 and the water treatment plant expansion ongoing in 2024. Branch water supply, there will be a preliminary design on that. Phase 3C and 2B pipeline projects. Both of those I expect will be either a late final design or construction in 2024. In addition, we've got 2 system-wide development projects that we'll be looking at, partially through the PRMRWSA. We have a $1 million grant from the state to do the preliminary design on that, so that won't cost the members anything, but it is going to be an expenditure. And then replacement of our ranch house office across the road is also on that. The authority's 5-year CIP includes about $550 million in new supply projects and pipeline projects. And as you can see, those are stepping up. 2024, we're looking at probably a course of $80 million. We'll go up to over about $170 million by 2026. So we're beginning to ramp that project up, and we're going to see that ramp up in 2024 on the CIP expenditure side. For potential grant funding sources for the CIP projects, the SWIFT money has been a major funding program of ours for many years. They are providing about 50% funding on both 2B and 3C pipelines, which is tremendous. But again, they're running out of money. They're going to provide $112 million in funding for the Reservoir 3 project. That is far below the 50% funding that we were doing in the past. And so we've got to make that up somewhere. We're looking pretty much under every bush we can. We're looking at state grant funding, and Terry's going to talk about that. Federal funding options like liquid loans. We have our current $100 million line of credit, and the intent is to use that as a bridge to move these projects forward until we're in a position to have a better idea of what the total cost is going to be before we pull the trigger on going to the bond market. So the bond market then, or do whatever other funding option we have to look at. Essentially paying back that $100 million line of credit. That line of credit provides us with a lot of flexibility. And then we also have a smaller line of credit that we use for system-wide benefit projects. And those are the projects that are like the Manasota cruise restriction or the franchise replacement project. They're smaller projects that they benefit all of our customers. So we have a $10 million line of credit for that. Continue to use that as we need to. That's just a preview of what we're looking at in terms of changes. Obviously, changes associated with just the cost of living, but bigger changes associated with spending on the CIP side. Any questions, comments?
Thank you. On what do you think you're anticipating the increase will be on R&R? I've seen a lot of increases in construction, and my mind is north of 30%.
It could very well be. We had a very detailed R&R study done back about 3 years ago that we used for the $4 million. And what I expect the change is going to be is we're going to look through there and say, okay, well, the inflation is this, construction costs is this. We probably apply that to pretty much all of those line items and come up with something. It could be $5 million instead of maybe more. We don't necessarily want to go out too much in one year. But, we will be probably looking at going ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I anticipate O&M to not have to be as extensive as R&R increases, but I don't know the chemical costs and the adjustments there and what those look like. But I know that we've seen significant increases in our CIP costs, and everybody needs to be prepared for that. And the inflation rate is not reflecting the real reality.
Anything else?
Agenda item number 6, Mr. Terry.
Regular agenda item 6 is just an update on the CIP grant funding. And there's no action required of the board, it's just for informational purposes only. So sit back and don't look at the numbers, right? If you remember back in December, Mr. Coates gave a presentation on our water supply projects, the costs. We also presented some of our grant funding opportunities that we would be pursuing. This presentation is really just an update from that presentation in December. We're going to cover the three main CIP projects that we are currently out there hunting down money for our CIP. We'll look at what we've currently received for grant funding on these projects and talk a little bit about what we're estimating and receiving or what we're requesting for FY 23-24. And then we'll just kind of cover the legislative and agency funding schedules so you guys will be aware of when we'll be finding out about those potential grant opportunities coming in. So real quick, you've seen this before. Our three CIP projects that we're looking for grant funding opportunities include the PRMRWSA project located here at the facility, the Phase 2B pipeline project in Charlotte County, and the Phase 3C pipeline project in Sarasota County. The PRMRWSA project, or Peace River Regional Reservoir number 3, is a 9 billion gallon reservoir project. There's some other components in there. It includes a new intake and pump station on the Peace River. We have raw water transmission lines up to the new reservoir, a new pump station from the reservoir system back to the water treatment plant, and all of the conveyance piping to connect all of those components. That project is currently in preliminary design. We have a 15% design cost estimate. It's right around $550 million. And we anticipate the state request for appropriation of $25 million. The schedule is up here. We're currently in the design permitting phase. We anticipate going into construction in 2024, completion in 2027, and then being able to bring that allocable supply on in concert with the water treatment plant expansion through 2029 when the reservoir can be built. The Phase 2B regional water transmission pipeline, that's approximately 13.1 miles of large diameter, 42-inch diameter finished water transmission line. Runs from the terminus of the existing regional system right there at Cirrus and Range Boulevard here. Travels west down Hillsborough Avenue, kind of makes a jog along, then turns south along Chancellor, goes underneath the Mayaca River, and terminates at the county's existing Gulf Coast facilities. The estimated total cost for that project is around $75 million. And we will be requesting $5 million in state appropriations grant funding, basically, for that project. Again, we are in preliminary design right now. We anticipate construction beginning in January of next year, and we want to have this project complete and in service by March 1st, 2026. And then the Phase 3C regional water transmission pipeline. This is a project in Sarasota County. Approximately 9 miles, again, 42-inch diameter finished water pipeline, may contain a booster station storage tank. It begins at the terminus of the regional system right there at Clark Road and continues northward along Calpine Slough and the new Lorraine Road right-of-way area and terminates up there at the intersection of Fruitville Road and Lorraine Road in northern Sarasota County. This project has an estimated cost of about $70 million, $69.6 million, and we do anticipate, again, requesting $5 million from the state for appropriation for the budget in FY23. It's currently in preliminary design. We anticipate beginning construction this spring and want to have that project completed and online by March 1st of 2025. So let's just take a look at the grants that we have received and those that we're looking to apply for and get for these three projects. In December, we outlined our grant funding opportunities. Here you can see we've got the state funding opportunities, DEP opportunities, and water management opportunities. So we have the state local funding initiative requests that go through both the Senate and the House appropriations process. To this end, we attended all 4 county delegation meetings that were held earlier in January, on the 11th and 12th. Mr. Coates discussed the 3 CIP projects that we presented here to the delegates. And we also have traveled to Tallahassee and met met personally with each of those delegates to discuss the importance of these projects in their respective counties and asked for their support and sponsorship through the legislative funding initiative process. We have submitted those local funding initiative requests for all three of these projects, and we have received confirmation from Representative McFarland in Sarasota County and Representative Roach in Charlotte County for their sponsorships of both the Phase 3C and the Phase 2B pipelines respectively. And we're optimistic that Representative Grant will sponsor the PR3 project as well. On the Senate side, we had positive feedback from Senator Albritton as well as Senator Boyd for sponsors on all three of those projects, the reservoir, Phase 3C, and Phase 2B projects. So we're just awaiting, hopefully, good news from staff that those projects will be sponsored through that process. For the DEP grant opportunities, there's two programs that we're pursuing. The first program is through the Resilient Florida Grant Opportunities. We did receive $7.25 million last year through this program, which covered the entire cost for the preliminary design of the PR3 project. And we did submit a request again this year for FY23 for $15 million for final design and construction-based services for the reservoir project. The other program at DEP is through the Office of Water Policy and Ecosystems Restoration. It's their Alternative Water Supply Grants program, and they do that in cooperation with the Water Management District. Last year, we were able to receive funding for both the 2B and 3C projects, totaling about $4 million in grants for those projects. And we anticipate that the Water Management District will take our projects that are in cooperative funding and again, submit them for this program. So we're optimistic that we'll have some matching funds from the department for these as well. We'll go over those in just a minute. And then we have our partnership with the Southwest Florida Water Management District through their cooperative funding initiative. And I just wanted to present this slide. The district presented this last month as their committed alternative water supply projects and their match that they're committed to from their board. You'll see there, Peace River has three projects. The reservoir project for $116 million. Phase 2B project at $36.2 million, and the Phase 3C project at $26.6 million. Now those are the total amounts for those projects. We're going to break that down into just what we're expecting in FY24. So table lots of numbers, but it's all good. On the left-hand side, you'll see the three projects listed, the reservoir, 2B, and 3C pipeline projects, and then across the top are the four programs that we just talked about, basically. So the FDEP Resilient Florida Program, FY22, we received $7.25 million. We requested $15 million, and we were just notified on Monday that the governor signed the project list, and we were included in that for $7.5 million. So almost $15 million worth of grant funding through the Resilient Florida Program for the PR3 project. Covers almost all of the design. So I think that's a great testament to the resiliency that that project brings to the region. From the Southwest Florida Water Management District Water District.
Just update people realize that it's not 50% funding. This is unique and amazing. So we're going to continue to match that, but it's a great success of the staff to be able to get this taken care of and get 100% funding of this portion of the design. We've never been able to receive that.
Correct, yeah. That $7.25 million in 2022, like you just said, is the entire cost of the preliminary design. There was no match required from the authority for that program, so that's a good point. Water Management District, FY23, we received $750,000 for the preliminary design on the Phase 2B project, and that is in concert with a match from the authority. So the authority puts in $750,000, they match that $750,000. Same with the Phase 3C, $1.25 million in grant funds for that preliminary design. Authority matched the other $1.25 million. For FY '24, we're obviously moving from design phase and construction phase. These numbers are much higher, but based on the district's information to us, FY '24, we can expect about $29 million for the PR3 project out of that total 115 that they committed to. $15 million out of the $36.2 million for the Phase 2B project, and $11 million on the Phase 3C project out of the 26.6. So the balance of those will be coming in the future, FY '25, '26, each of those projects. Then the FDEP, the Alternative Water Supply Program, they matched whatever the Water Management District and the authority put in. So $1.5 million for the Phase 2B project, and $2.5 million for the Phase 3C project under that program. And then the state funds. This is where we've hopefully secured sponsorships on all of our funding requests. We'll come back, I'm sure, next month with an update. $25 million for the PR3 project in the FY '23-24 state budget, $5 million for the Phase 2B, and $5 million for Phase 3C. All in all, for all those project grant requests, those that we have received and those that we're currently working on those agreements for, total about $110 million, $111 million worth of grant funding for those 3 CIP projects. So as we continue to receive the grant funds, obviously, hopefully, our members see the benefits that those projects bring to the region and the funding that's behind them. Looking at the schedules for all those grants coming in, we covered the legislative funding schedule there. That's $35 million worth of grants, the 25 for the reservoir, and then the 5 for both the pipelines. As we mentioned, we met with all the delegation meetings, went up to Tallahassee on the 24th and 25th of January, spoke with all the delegates, secured sponsorships there, waiting some confirmations on the other ones. Those will go through the legislative process. Session begins on March 7th. It ends on May 5th. By that time, we'll know what's actually made it into the governor's budget. However, he does have line item veto authority, and until June 30th, when he actually strokes the budget, we will not have a confirmation on it. We have good news, hopefully, but we got to hold our breath until June 30th. With respect to the Resilient Florida grant, we did request $15 million, and that was the DEP staff set their list and rankings of all those projects into the governor for his review on December 1st. It was just announced on Monday. That list came out, and we secured $7.5 million. And then the cooperative funding. There's $55 million in FY '24 in that grant bucket, and the district staff will present their list of alternative water supply projects for funding under that program to their board in April. And then the governing board will actually approve their final budget in September of 2023, which is the time when we can be secured on the amount of funds that have been committed to the authority. So with that update, I'll take some questions you might have.
This is Drew. Terry, thanks for the report. A couple things. In the report, in your presentation, you had $550 million, and in the supporting document says 571 for the reservoir.
Correct.
The 571.6, that's accurate number?
Correct. So the 550 is the construction number, so that's what it costs. But when you put in the engineering and design, it's 571 for a total project cost.
And that doesn't include the plant amount, correct?
Correct. That does not. That does not include the budget effects.
That's it. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Breakfast and cheese.
She was fun to do those.
Morning, board. Members of the board, Mike Knowles, with the board and staff, presenting regular agenda item number 7. This is the regional integrated link phase 3C pipeline for the permit package update. That music is not recorded by presentation. I'm just, as long as it's voices, I was good.
I'll be presenting a background on our aggressive design build for phase 3C, talk about updates to the early procurement package approved in December, and then discuss next steps and schedule for the project. Our aggressive design build for phase 3C starts with board approval in October of the phase 1 contract, covering through 60% design with guarding construction. And then there was an information-only presentation for an early procurement package made in December. At that board meeting, the board approves that package with a not to exceed amount of $10 million for indirect purchase of materials. Then January 9th, the authority issued 2 purchase orders related to materials. So what did we buy? Garney contacted some national valve manufacturers to get pricing on 42-inch butterfly valves and other smaller diameter butterfly gate valves. The bids received, Ferguson Waterworks was our low bidder at approximately $540,000. We had one no bid. They indicated they could not secure a local distributor. So that was our one no bid. Garney also contacted some national pipe manufacturers for 42-inch diameter pipe. And the bids came in, our low bidder at approximately $7.9 million was American Spiral Welding Pipe Company. And we received a no bid from Mid-American Steel Company, indicating they had a big backlog and couldn't meet the aggressive schedules in the production line. So with these 2 purchase orders, we've secured the pipe and valves for the project. Also saved approximately $500,000 in sales tax on ongoing owner direct purchase. And we received a personal message from Patrick Cook. He's the Vice President of Operations of American Spiral Welding. I'll play his message for you now.
Good day to all at the Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority. I'm Patrick Cook, Vice President of Operations here at American Spiral Pipe. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your Phase 3C piping order. We'll be producing your pipe here in Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm currently standing in front of our new state-of-the-art pipe coating line. This line represents a $12.2 million investment in the latest technology on pipe coating. I invite you to come to tour our facility and see your pipe being manufactured and coated here. We recognize that this project is a collaborative effort with Garney Construction, and we're excited to be a part of that collaboration. Again, thank you for your order. Thank you for your confidence in American. We look forward to getting this project underway. We won't let you down.
So as Mike indicated, out front is a showpiece of that 42-inch diameter pipe. We invite the board members here, people attending to leave their mark on a piece of history that will soon deliver water up to North and Sarasota County. And then just a side note, any professional engineers signing this pipe, just know that you're approving this technical job. Next steps and schedule for the phase 3C project will be coming back to the board in April with the phase 2 contract that includes GMP construction and final design. Also, we had substantial completion in March of 2025.
Just an update on the amended master water supply contract, actually it's the 3rd amended master water supply contract. So we sent it out to all the legal counsel and it's being reviewed. And we're going to be looking at the April 5th meeting, the authority for a potential approval. I am getting some feedback on it, so we're not ready to take that to you and have that approval with all of the members.
Yeah, just for Mr. Chair, Terry covered a lot of the legislative updates in the presentation. But I did want to say thanks to Laura Donaldson and Kate Kelly and Mr. Manson's group. They arranged for the visits of Tallahassee to our legislative delegation. And we didn't just meet with the legislative delegation, we met with key members in the legislature, senior staff, capital. These are the folks who actually do the day-to-day operations and the committees that allocate money. And so it's very helpful for them to know something about these projects, and we were able to educate them on projects. And I think they were appreciative, and hopefully that'll pay off for us. Terry and Richard and I had a busy schedule up there, and Laura and Katie really set all of that stuff up, and it was, I think, very good. As Terry also told you at the beginning of the meeting, we have an award-winning barbecue team, and we have an award-winning barbecue lunch outside here. After we adjourn, if everybody would take just about 10 minutes to go out and sign the pipe, we'll take a look at the pilot facilities out there. We will rearrange the room here, put some tables in so we don't have to each part standing up. Please do that, so that will help us. Everybody's welcome for takeout there, so help yourselves. That's it for me.
Thanks, sir. Board members, have any comments?
Just, Mike, if we can get copies of those talking points for the priorities authority, because we spend a lot of time in Tallahassee, and then any community members need us to help push through, because it benefits Charlotte County, particularly to make sure we're up there fighting for the cause for water authority, as it benefits all of us. Thank you.
No, sir, glad to be a part of it, appreciate it, definitely.
Well,
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Have we got barbecue? Here, none. Our next meeting will be in Downtown Charlotte County, our office, and in June, we'll be in DeSoto County. August, we'll be in Mississippi, October, Sarasota, and December, we'll be back in DeSoto County. So, another thing to come forward. Stand adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.
See you down.